Hello, I am Prabhu Chawla. Good evening. I'm going to welcome to our first Global Express talk show, which is going to talk about the current events only, international developments which happened during the past week or which likely to happen in the future. Now we are going to discuss what happened this month. 3 flags, 1 pledge, and region on alert. Earlier this month in Mecca, as you know, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Turkey signed a joint defense pact. An attack on one is an attack on all 3. It builds on a Saudi-Pakistan agreement from last September. But Turkey's entry turns this into something much bigger. Is this aimed at Iran, or at Israel, or at India? And could it pull Saudi Arabia and Turkey into a future India-Pakistan conflict? Joining me on this show today is Ambassador Manjeev Puri, who has spent over 35 years dealing with diplomacy and strategic affairs. Welcome to the show, Mr. Puri. First time we are starting Global Talks, the New Indian Express. We are going to talk today about very important issue which everybody is talking about without any firm information, confirmed information. It's all based on social media postings, which is the fashionable way of getting information these days. What do you think about what happened actually between Saudi Arabia? Who are 3 countries? One is Pakistan, one is Turkey, and the other one is Saudi Arabia. Does it mean anything for us? Because everybody bothers that it is aimed at India. But I understand there was already some kind of informal pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Turkey is a new entry. What does it mean in terms of global strategic affairs, alliances? Is it against A, B, or C?
Prabhuji, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be there as part of this podcast of yours. Thank you. I think you have raised a very important question. First, let me say something about information. By and large, information available on what they have agreed upon is very limited. There is a press release and no other real details, but some of these things are like that. The disconcerting thing, or the matter that makes people anxious, is wording in the press release, which is somewhat akin to the Article 5 of NATO, that an attack on one is an attack on everyone. Understandably, at our end, others tend to look at this as, what does it mean? If Pakistan indulges in some misadventure against India, will we also have to contend with Saudi Arabia and Turkey? My understanding of this is a little more circumscribed. Yes, there is every reason for us to look at this with a degree of seriousness, concern. Of course, you must. The question of their entering into a defense pact cannot be taken lightly by us. That goes without saying.
Because I want to understand from my general readers who want to understand, because general perception is this is happening to Iran and Trump and everybody else, and this is targeting us. What was the need now for these 3 countries to come together? They had already signed some kind of effect. What does it mean? Why Turkey entered into it now?
So, Prabhuji, let me just finish that. So, as I said, there is reason for us to look at it seriously. Later on in the program, we'll try to go into what I think to the degree of this particular, anxiety, etc., we need to address. What happened? My understanding is quite simple and clear. Saudi Arabia hosts American bases. Turkey is a member of NATO. Pakistan is, what should I say, a fairly close ally of the United States of America. It always has been, no matter what we try to say about our relation with the United States. It affords them a certain space, and it does a great amount of their bidding. Historically, Pakistan used to be part of what used to be called the Baghdad Pact, which was the Middle East CENTO. They were also part of the SEATO, which was the Far East equivalent of NATO. In 1979, when there was an uprising in Mecca, the Pakistanis sent soldiers which helped the Saudis be there. Now, my own understanding, in fact, on the creation of Pakistan has something slightly different from the usual thing which we believe. And obviously, that's right, that Hindu-Muslim caused the partition of India. It gave rise to this particular thing. But let's also understand what has now been said in many research articles, etc., that towards the end, it was the British General Staff, when they came to know that, independence was inevitable for India, they thought that the idea of Pakistan was very good. And the reason for it, I'll tell you, is that oil got discovered in the Middle East, Iran 1908, in the 1930s, in this area of Saudi Arabia around Dharan, etc., etc. And before the start of the Second World War, the Royal Navy determined that oil was a better fuel than coal. That changed the dynamics. So I want to make a small point, an interesting one to you. This perhaps was a crucial factor behind the creation of Israel. Again, it's the Jewish homeland, all that is important, the Balfour Declaration. But it was a good idea to have one of your own in the midst of an area which would be critical to you for what is very important, fueling your being a great power. And then you look at Pakistan.
What is the connection? I'm not understood between connection between Pakistan, Saudi. They were together earlier. These three countries geographically, strategically, is it getting together against Israel or Iran? I'm not able to figure it out.
So, Prabhuji, you are right. So, I was elaborating this to basically tell you, Pakistan, again, has been a country which has not only been an ally of the Western world, but has performed a lot of their actions that they require, being, let me say, part of the insider, Israel part of the outsiders who are patrolling this very critical geography for them. Now, let's come down to the current situation. The current situation is the Americans are providing a certain protection. But in the current context, the Saudis certainly feared that there is a certain element of chance of the Iranians hitting out at them. There was the Houthis, who are proxies of the Iranians, hitting out to them from the Red Sea side. There have been a number of such incidents. They have apprehension. So what have they done? They've essentially cobbled together yet another pact to, in a sense, protect them. And so you mentioned Pakistan always being there, available, etc. Yes, certainly. And certainly these are all three are friends of America. But the fact is that it's possible that what the Saudis wanted was that not just the American protection, perhaps they were not very confident that that would be sufficient in terms of actual action on the ground. And so they're building another layer of protection for themselves. Why did Pakistan, you know the old story. They've always been there. They need Saudi assistance. They are willing to be the game that they have to play. For the Turks, let's look at it. Over the last 20 odd years, the Turks have tried to assert themselves as some kind of players in the Middle East. In some senses, getting over the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. We are also players.
I'm trying to put it simply in a way, but you're given a very interesting history and facts which nobody knows. At least I don't know too well. People in the diplomatic must be knowing. But you have to connect all the things, the past and the present and the future here. But the past is very interesting. The future, which I'm talking about, is three countries coming together. I'm trying to figure out specifically that the perception is that if tomorrow there is a war against India by Pakistan, will Saudi jump into it? That's the question everybody is asking. It may not be true, it may be an imaginary question. But question is perceptively being asked because the Pakistan suddenly gets credibility also. America is already patronizing it. China is patronizing it. Pakistan is getting much more global attention than it deserves as a country. It is a failed nation according to some of us. But now Pakistan becoming at the fulcrum of diplomacy is something which must be bothering everybody here also.
So, Prabhuji, I have no doubt, as I started off by saying, there is reason for the kind of perception that we have. Is it founded or not? So let me complete that bit. So, these three countries coming together, obviously Saudi Arabia has been the fulcrum. They have certain abilities. They've been able to pull them together. Now, our looking at it, that will it be that? Look, in my understanding, first of all, without going into the very legalistic meaning of the words, an attack on one. Have we ever attacked Pakistan? Even Sindoor, etc. What we've done is we've attacked terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan. Let us be a little clear, but I don't want to go into that.
That's a nuance. That's you call the diplomatic nuance. That we attacked the thief inside. We attacked that thief.
No. Turkey's support for Pakistan is what? It's technological support, some weaponry support, etc. Don't we also buy from elsewhere that these things happen? I want to make a point to you. I think everybody would tell the Saudis, the Turks, etc., that you have no business and don't step into any Pakistani misadventurism against India. I don't think either the Saudis or the Turks are unaware of that. So therefore, this should not be a case of anybody in Pakistan thinking that they have an upper hand to conduct misadventurism. They will get none. They never got. Remember, 65, they were members of the Baghdad Pact. Nobody came to them. 71, no one came to their support. These are some of the facts. Look at our bilateral relations with Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, yeah, we have very much economic relations.
The best of relations. We are huge buyers of Saudi oil. They're not going to look at this. And the Turks too. We do lots of business there and so on. So therefore, I don't want to not talk about it, but I don't want to at all overstate this particular thing as giving any kind of shield and feeling. Now, in terms of the other point that you made, Pakistan's credibility. Look, the fact of the matter is that in various ways, the old story of why Pakistan is important to the West has been leveraged to them post-Sindhu. We have been successful that Pakistan could not use its United Nations Security Council membership to say anything against us. Nobody come to the fore. But the fact that their relevance in the Middle East is there because their geography is the way it is and the kind of country they are. We should try and keep ourselves, let me say, one step a little away from it. I am an old-fashioned believer in dehyphenation from Pakistan. And that's something, in my understanding, a little important. Now, talking about this fact.
Pakistan doing basically get more money from them all.
Because Pakistan is a client state.
Pakistan is leveraging the geography for economic gains, basically.
I mean, for being a country, for being what they are. They are, yeah,
if it all is a country.
And let me say this, they are leveraging it is, in my understanding, because they were created to be able to leverage it.
Coming back to the pact, I'm coming because nobody knows in the newspapers or off the front pages whether the war is still on or off. Because this alliance comes at a time when nobody knows whether Iran is still fighting Israel or Israel is still bombing back. Iran, we don't know because there may be a sanction or nothing is happening. If there is no war, only the Hormuz is closed. That's what we know factually and nothing else. So this alliance which is coming at a time where nobody knows what is happening in that region. So can you explain something is happening in the region or not? There is a war going or not going on?
Look, that 60-day deadline expired a day or two back. So we don't know because there is a kind of tinderbox situation. Any day, anybody can sort of lose it. The Iranians can attack a ship. The Americans can decide we want to do some bombing. The Israelis can step in. Now, perhaps people forget that Pakistan has signed some kind of an agreement with one of these Somali governments out there on the 4th of August. Some kind of a military logistics agreement, etc. Will the Pakistanis take action against the Houthis? They may, if it is required. Are they in a position to do so? I am not very sure because it is stretching a lot of what their capabilities are and their abilities to be able to do something.
You have brought in Houthis because of Saudi Arabia, of course, is available the Houthis. Now, Houthis are obviously supported by people think Iran is much more important than that. And do you think when Iran comes in, again, I'm coming to the same question again and to simplify for the Indian viewers who are going to look at it, that this alliance is much more targeted at Iran. Because there is some kind of all religious also is involved because there are Sunnis and Shias and Iran is Shia dominated. The three countries are mostly Sunnis dominated. Is the historical, that could be the reason, okay?
No, so Prabhuji, look, this Shia Sunni is an old thing. We all know it. And it is an issue as far as Iran is concerned. But remember, there are significant Shia populations even in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, Qatar. All these countries do have Shia populations, of course, not in majority, and certainly not in the ruling class.
Even Pakistan has got it. Pakistan has got maximum, I think.
Pakistan also, India also. We are the second largest Shia country in the world. So these things are the case. But these are historic and they are given. The fact of the matter is that Saudis have possibly built also for a degree of feeling comfort, another layer of defense possibilities. Will the Pakistanis be able to really do anything? I am not very sure that the Pakistanis or the Turks would be willing to attack Iran, but they may be in a position to do a certain amount of defensive action in case the Iranians do anything against the Saudis. This is the bottom line as far as most are concerned. As far as I am concerned, if you will allow me to say, we should be cognizant of what has happened. We should take necessary measures. Our protections for the Strait of Hormuz, which as and when it opens will be very critical for us. It has always been critical to us, our relationship. But keep yourself a little distant from what is happening exactly in the Middle East. We have a number of issues, Prabhuji, in India. There is a certain feeling, people talk about this, not just a Sunni alliance, but also an Islamic alliance, this, that. I know, I come from India. Also, this issue of the United Arab Emirates, which tries to play of late a slightly different game from the Saudis, whether it's between their leaders having different perceptions of who is more important, MBZ or MBS, and so on. So they have their own sets of things and all of that. My understanding is be cognizant, be prepared, take whatever action, but keep yourself a little distant from it and don't in any way try and get yourself involved in it. Strategic autonomy is not a choice, it's an imperative. We're the world's largest country. We will become the third largest economy. We are players what we are. We have our issues with China, we know it. But we can't be, and the British also recognize this, that we can't be a country which can be, let me say, a country which listens to, does what others say, which is what hegemonic powers do. So we are the way we are, and at least I am firmly convinced of that view.
Ambassador, you raised a very good question that we should be cognizant of it, but we should not be worried about it.
No, so let me use the word. You should be cognizant, you should understand what its implications are, make preparations, but then don't go overboard, especially as many people talk about, we should have our own pact. No. We need to remain in good relations with all those countries, the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, with Iran, if and when they start supplying oil. Why not? It's the cheapest and the best oil that we can get in India.
Let me understand, because I am a student of politics rather than diplomacy. What is happening when you joined the service and when you left the service? The global politics has changed, because now the economics decide diplomacy rather than diplomacy deciding the other thing. What you pointed out, Saudi Arabia is a friend of ours, so was Iran. But now our relations with Iran is not as good as they used to be earlier, because what the stand we took in favor of Israel. Don't you think that going straight away into the lap which is known as the Israeli camp, we have also made our situation much more weakened in terms of international diplomacy, isn't it?
Prabhuji, for someone like me, and it's not that I don't know economics. In the middle of my 40 years in the diplomatic service, the idea of BRIC was put forward by Goldman Sachs, and our thinking of ourselves changed. We started believing, and we are experiencing, that we are a country of consequence. And this is a change. We became G20 members. I've seen and lived through all of this. Therefore, economics matters, because now we are economic players. I mentioned to you, we are the fifth largest economy. We will become the third largest economy. We are a country of interest to the West and interest even to the Chinese, ideally, and keep yourself out of those. You mentioned this thing about Israel. Yes, we have built relations with Israel and good reasons for the relations, defense cooperation, cooperations in cyber technology, so many areas. Why not? We should do it. So hasn't the UAE built relations with them? Everybody does that. You as a country of consequence, everybody wants to have relations. Please work on this. This is important. I didn't use the expression, but you use the expression lap. We are not in that business, at least not in my understanding. India can't be.
What I meant, I didn't mean that economics, you said, I never referred to you as economist. I said diplomacy was more decided by diplomatic only. The economics was less part of it. Input of economics was much more less. It started later on. What I am saying that by joining Israeli camp, rather, I will say joining Israel, because Israel is much dependable in terms of technology and whatever, I'm all for it. But the question is, did we work out that by annoying Iran, which has the tested friend in the past so far, and we have very good relations with Iran, so we could have balanced this and this triangle which are now. Saudi Arabia is a friend of India. That's the advantage I'm looking from that angle. That if there's an anti-India pressure within that troika, Saudi may be a balancing factor there, telling them, okay, don't go under on that. I'm looking from that angle. The entry of Saudi Arabia, it was there with Pakistan, but Turkey coming in, because Turkey is hostile to India, which is very clear to us. So what I'm saying, economics is dictating much more now than anything else. Hormuz, for example, we are suffering for it. The world is suffering for it. That is calling a lot of economic instability.
Let's be very clear. Money always mattered, even for the British Empire. It mattered for the Americans, the Europeans, and everyone. But we were not in it. This is a pact which is essentially, in my understanding, a defense pact, a second layer defense pact, or a first layer, Americans being the second layer defense pact for the Saudis, in case of inimical action by the Iranians, direct or otherwise. The Pakistanis need it. I think it also suits their geopolitical ambitions, if I may say so, that we are players. We are not just a small country which is adjunct to Europe and hanging around as members of NATO. We are players in the Middle East region. And so, therefore, that's the important. As far as we are concerned, my view, this is my view. Governments have their own views and they know much more. My view, as given the size of India, this particular factor is important. Now, you mentioned Iran. The main reason why many of the relations with Iran, especially oil purchases and all, stepped back was American sanctions against Iran. And this has been going on for 20 years. And let me accept the fact, our inabilities to be able to make payments to them without going into some kind of a dollar arrangement. And it was not easy. It's very easy to talk in terms of bilaterals, in terms of barter trade, but it's not possible. What are you in a position to manufacture that can offset oil sales, etc.? And then we are integrated with the Western economy. We have an interest. Any bank here would be very hesitant if they... So, things stepped back, and there is no doubt about that at all. The Israelis have stepped up, not as a consequence of this, but as a consequence of our own needs, whether it's cyber or it's defense, and we found them to be good partners, and we are working with them. Strategic autonomy and multi-alignment are not choices we are exercising. They are, for us, imperatives.
I'm asking very imaginary question. Do you think when Israel attacks Pakistan, Saudi Arabia or Turkey is going to attack Israel?
So you asked me a hypothetical question. It is my understanding that...
I'm trying to understand the arrangement. That attack on one means attack on everybody else. I'm going into that philosophy.
So, Prabhu, hypothetical questions, and let me tell you, the answer is that in all probability, they will make noises. They may send some money, some technology, and so on and so forth. They're not going to get into it. We all know it. The Pakistanis also know it.
Ambassador, but the question is, money, the person who has got the nation which has got the money, Saudi Arabia doesn't have the defense. They don't have a proper army. They don't have any armor there. I don't know why they never planned like kind of. They are depending on Pakistan, which is a failed army. They are depending on Turkey, which has got some sophistication. I understand. But this arrangement is just like a fancy arrangement in which we don't know who is capable of handling whom.
Hey, Prabhuji, they are countries with excellent relations with the United States. That's the
common factor.
That's the main factor. These are some of the, let me say, the foot soldiers for adding to that particular alliance.
How you get it? Basically,
you need that too, isn't it? The Americans are providing all kinds of, Patriot missiles, this, that, and the other. But look at the Saudis. They are right across the Gulf of Hormuz, the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf from the Iranian. They feel the heat. They feel the heat. Tehran is not very far away. Bahrain, which is a very dear friend of the Saudis, is right next to the Iranians. And they feel the heat. And so, therefore, they have to build these particular things. So sometimes, you need air power and you need foot soldiers too.
That's another problem happening there. So if I must ask you in the end, what are the three big takeaways from this defense pact for India, for the Middle East, and for the Washington, Mr. Trump, who changes his stance every day?
Well, from our perspective and my understanding, when I use the word cognizance, it's not just read it, but look at yourself, strengthen your presence in the Persian Gulf. This is for us the most important artery. Be present in the Arabian Sea. Do what you have to in the Red Sea area. That is something important. That's fine. But basically your own capacities because of who we are. We are a country which in a sense has to stand, as they say, to use Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's words, ekla chalo re. That's important. United States. Mr. Trump has put out a tweet saying, I welcome the pact. For the Iranians, they understand that Saudi Arabia has now stitched up not just the Americans with whom they are, in a sense, they are at war, but they've stitched up other people with whom the Iranians may not have the best of relations, but certainly have working relations. After all, Pakistan and Turkey border Iran.
Then I come to the last question, which I'm going to ask you. What kind of a diplomatic initiative we should take in this case? You talked about we should do many things, but I'm talking in terms of diplomacy, it's a big challenge or not?
Prabhuji, diplomacy for a country like India, which is climbing to the high table, is always a challenge. My understanding is that while, as you mentioned, this thing about the LAP, etc., and the friendship with Israel, that's fine. We need to reach out simultaneously to the countries in the Gulf, which means the Saudis in particular. We need to build relations with them. UAE, we've got good relations, but also Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, all of them to the extent we can, and even keep a pipeline open to the Iranians. Try and see what you can do. And I am not saying get into the act of mediation, those are all too much, but put out good counsel, but at the same time, ensure that you have relations which are good, working, friendly relations, and people count on you as a country which is friendly towards them. Particularly at this stage, the Saudis, who would also be coming for the BRICS summit.
Thank you, Ambassador. You have given a clear indication. There is no worry for India at all. We should take our steps, what means good for India. Go and take diplomatic outreach. Talk to various countries. Prepare yourself for the future. We need not worry what Pakistan does with Saudi Arabia, because they are not going to help Pakistan as they have not in the past. Thank you very much for talking to us today. That's enough for today. Global Talks. We'll meet again and discuss some other subject with Ambassador Puri and others. Thank you very much for watching Global Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you.